What's up, Night Owl? Steely here, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about flying. So as some of you may know, there are some race options in Dungeons & Dragons that will allow you to fly as early as first level. And it's something that I've seen a lot of DMs struggle with, so I kind of want to give some insight to the entire flying player issue. So to start with, I kind of want to lay out my position on the matter. I think that flying is good, but I don't think that it's great. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think that power is the reason the DMs struggle with flight. I think it's because of the versatility of it. Racial traits like magic resistance, the bugbear reach, the human feet, halfling luck, tabaxi, just tabaxi. All of these are something that I would consider stronger than flight, but not necessarily difficult to deal with as a DM. So why are we singling out flight? Flight gives the player an entire dimension of movement that a lot of other creatures don't have. And it can be tricky for a DM to deal with, so I'm also going to give some tips throughout the video. The first of which being flight is a trade-off. When you fly up in the air, chances are you're not going to have any cover. You also have a long drop below you in case you get tripped or restrained or paralyzed. Flying characters are usually going to be dex-based with little to no armor, and that's just the nature of being a ranged combatant. Another big restriction that a flying player will have is the environment. Flying is almost exclusively an outdoor ability, with some exceptions, obviously. As far as out of combat goes, flight gives you the ability to reach places that you normally wouldn't, to put it simply. You can fly over treetops, rooftops, you can fly over castle walls, you can reach open windows. A few things to note here is that the flyer cannot take the party with them, so they are not going to be effective at wherever they end up as long as the party is waiting for them to open that locked door, for example. And just to really put flying out of combat to bed, keep in mind that there's not a whole lot of places that a flyer can reach that someone with a climb speed or a rope and pitons can't reach. Granted, the flyer can get there faster, but time is what you make it as a DM. And there's also the first level spell Find Familiar, which gives you access to an animal that can fly, climb, swim, and that you have complete control over and you can even see and hear through. With a first level spell and 10 gold pieces, you've effectively made yourself an amazing scout. I think a lot of DMs have a problem with this because the players can reach things that they didn't necessarily expect them to. But that's really just a part of DMing, right? The players do things that you don't expect all the time. But you do, as a DM, need to account for their abilities like flight. This is one of those things that I think you should be excited about as a DM. Put things on those rooftops, have open windows for them to explore. Put things up there that nobody else can reach, that the flyer can get to and just explore and let them enjoy their abilities is what I'm getting at. All right, so now let's talk about flight in combat. Flying in combat makes you unreachable by non-flying melee combatants. That's it. That's all it does. You'll have a similar situation with an archer up a tree or a spellcaster in a watchtower. Most ranged combatants prefer to stay out of melee and have abilities to keep them out of melee anyway. Look at the wood elf with +5 movement speed. In a large map, the wood elf is effectively flying because a melee combatant can't reach them. The big difference between the flyer and the troops on the ground is positioning and a complete lack of it. Flyers have the benefit of not having to deal with difficult terrain, but they also have no hope of getting cover. A ranged combatant on the ground can duck behind cover, pop out, shoot, and then get back behind cover so they can't be targeted by range abilities. This is an effective strategy that the flyer gives up completely. The benefit being that a melee combatant has no hope of ever reaching them. And that's not to say that a flyer can't swoop down behind a tree and hide and then pop back out and do their thing, but they're effectively doing the same thing as a ranged combatant on the ground anyway. And that's really the point that I'm trying to drive home is they're just ranged combatants on the back line that the melee troops don't have any chance of getting to. As far as how to deal with them, I would say don't. If you have ranged combatants and they have the opportunity, they may shoot at the flyer depending on how threatening they are. And every once in a while, you can put the flyer up against a couple of mephits or a harpy or even a periton to fight for air superiority. Gargoyles are a super common flying enemy that can be pretty tricky for a party to deal with. And I love the idea of the party aiding their flyer by trying to focus down a gargoyle so that their flyer can take air superiority and rain fireballs down on the enemy. There's a ton of fun dynamic to be had in a combat with a flyer, and you should take advantage of that as a DM. Maybe ice methods, dropping fog clouds in the air to blind your party. And your flying player has to go up there and deal with them so the party on the ground can fight effectively. This is strictly low-level advice because by about 5th level, as I recommended in my encounter video, throw spellcasters. Once they're up against spellcasters, if they want that flyer down, the flyer's going down. I couldn't imagine having issues dealing with a flyer past 5th level because at that point, that flying ability is just another cool thing that they can do. And that's all the advice that I have for dealing with flying players. If I missed anything, let me know down there in the comments below. Also, there's links to all the socials. I have a Patreon now, And if you want to be a part of this D&D community, make sure you join the Discord. Link is in the description. Come by, ask questions, let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you at sundown.